was where we stepped in and worked with Fifth Finger on one of the most successful campaigns in Australia to date, which was the Snack Brands Gold Member launch for the Gold Member movie, where every packet of chips had a little Tarzo type thing or plastic disc in it, and you rub Austin Powers' hairy little chest and you get a code which you SMS back in, and everyone was a winner. Everybody won a prize. And that was one of the most successful campaigns, just based on the metrics that we got back as far as how many they put out there and how many people actually responded back to that call to action. And you're talking ringtones, graphics, little pictures that were all sent back to people's phones. So people were getting an immediate response back when they sent that off, and it just caused them to just keep going.
Where do you think the greatest challenges come? Is it marketing that will come up with ideas, or is it the technology and finding ways to fit the technology to a solution?
The technology's there. I don't think that's an issue anymore. I think it's probably moving it more into the mainstream, and that was probably pleasing about this year's awards, is to see that SMS was being used more and more for some mainstream activities, like the Victorian State Schools results, the train timetables, that sort of thing. There's the Jetstar SMS buy a ticket stuff is another innovative use of the technology. It sort of gets mixed results from some of the surveys that you get back from people where it's been used in Europe. People attach a fairly high value to a plane ticket, therefore you sort of want something different to possibly just doing it with an SMS.
What do you mean?
It's...
Do they not
it's
have
more of a
e-ticketing? They need something physical?
I think it's the fact that they've dealt with a high value, I guess, more of an emotional attachment type purchase. They've actually dealt with a travel agent, or they've done it over the internet, and they've actually physically seen something. So the SMS side of thing, you just sort of get a text message with a code. I think the next evolution of that would be MMS, where it would transfer what you actually see on the internet from a mobile ticketing point of view to probably a more graphical interface on the mobile. But it's a start, and that's sort of the stuff that we didn't see in the first year or two, but we started to see, particularly in the last awards.
How do you, and I'm not sure that you have anything to compare this to, but you've worked in computers as well, but how do you see the creativity being different in mobile marketing perhaps than it is in other businesses?
Well, I mean, the creativity I think comes from the fact that you're dealing with a mobile device. So there are constraints, you're dealing with different handsets that all aren't of a similar standard. Whereas when you're talking about email or computers, you're talking about pretty much, you're governed by how big your display is and all that sort of stuff, So you're not really limited as much as you are with the mobile market. So as with MMA, when we used our mobile ticketing, where we asked people to advise us what mobile phone they had, there are hundreds of mobile phones out there, and you have to cater for every single mobile phone, from a point where you've got a campaign that you could run on a Hutch phone, which is full 3G compliant, which will allow you to have streaming to it, to just a simple old text phone that doesn't even have a colour screen or graphics on it. So that's the sort of the broad width. So if you're tailoring a campaign, you need to realise that you have to try and capture a very large market that has a very diverse set of actual technology that the customer owns to access it.
Does that drive the cost up then of the creative product?
Not. It shouldn't really. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got mechanisms in place that will take a single point feed for a particular design or creative design, and then it will apply or convert it into whatever handset is going to receive it. So it's what you've actually should start to see is that a company can design a campaign at the highest end, which might be full streaming to a 3G based handset. It will feed into a system that will then decide what phone is trying to access it and what technology level it's at, and then make the adjustments automatically and drop it back down. Like sometimes when you might be on an old version of Windows Explorer or a very old version of Microsoft Outlook Express, and somebody sent you a fairly feature-rich email, and because your browser doesn't support it, it gets converted backwards down to the level that it's capable of reading. Similar sort of approach in mobiles.
I imagine you've learned a lot from the internet marketing industry, and I think some people would argue that the internet marketers were a little irresponsible in the way that they were costing their services initially before the bust, if you will. Is there a danger at all of that happening in mobile marketing? Do you think perhaps people are riding the wave of popularity and the unknown in perhaps overcharging at the moment for services?
I can't really comment on the pricing and how the industry sets its pricing, because the prices seem to be fairly standard. There's 55 cents premium, which was set by the ACA when they brought out premium SMS numbering, and then there's the standard 25-cent rate, which seems to fluctuate between operators depending on what you're doing, if it's an Optus to Optus handset or a Virgin to Virgin handset, that sort of thing. But from a marketing or an access point of view, the rates have been set, and I don't think anybody's abusing it from what I've seen. I think where people get into trouble or might get a misconception is when you see on the news when they talk about young people who send hundreds of premium SMSs into a particular number and rack up bills of $300 or $400. That is the whole reason why prepaid is in the marketplace, so that you can govern those sorts of spend patterns, so that you're not actually getting a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old who's been put onto a phone contract that doesn't really have the means to pay for those bills if they're SMSing at that sort of rate. And that's where we're actually seeing a lot of growth as well, is in the prepaid side of things, as people come to realise that the best way to govern spend, and in yourself, I guess, is to put a prepaid account in place.
Yeah.
So, and it works effectively. I mean, we've got some of our customers that derive up to 85% of their revenues from prepaid.
Really?
So, it's...
Would that have something to do with the target market? The target
for a
lot of SMS campaigns being younger people in that sort of 15 to perhaps 25 age range that are a little bit blind to traditional marketing forms?
It depends. I mean, certainly the biggest market globally, particularly with TV voting campaigns. You have a look at Channel V in the Philippines, where we're involved over there in some massive TV voting campaigns over there. It's predominantly the youth market. Then again, the Philippines, it's pretty much almost 100% prepaid.
Really?
So,
youth market too, yeah.
And they don't have the same issues as far as credit problems. Because you buy a block of time, and once it's used up, you either top it up consciously, or you just don't do anything about it.
Is the industry at all responsible, do you think, for use of SMS and premium SMS? Is there a responsibility to make kids aware of the dangers of too much premium SMS?
Well, I mean, I think they do, as far as what the cost is. I mean, they're all clearly stated on the ads,
yeah,
on what the terms and conditions are. I mean, you still hear of issues where even adults have racked up, huge bills of up to $500. Well, I think there was one on the news was $1,000. I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody, in my opinion, and this is why some of the other operators have such high prepaid revenues, is to go with prepaid.